remember the sting of antiseptic in my nose, the fluorescent light burning overhead, and my father's voice, cold, clipped, cutting through the line. "Are you dying? Don't call in a panic. Claire needs me right now." I lay bleeding on a gurney, ribs aching, leg throbbing. My phone cracked like my body, like my faith. He chose my sister's meltdown over my broken bones. And in that moment, between beeping machines and the taste of blood, I realized this wasn't new. It had always been this way. I just hadn't wanted to see it. Because this crash wasn't the beginning. It was the proof of every wound that came before. Because that hospital bed wasn't just about the crash. It was the echo of every birthday ignored, every graduation skipped, every time I was told, "You'll be fine. Claire needs me." Claire was always the fragile one, the golden child. When she cried, the world stopped. When she stumbled, Dad rushed to her side with open arms and open wallet. My birthdays? Quiet dinners. Hers? Backyard parties, string lights, 3 tiered cakes. My high school graduation? Dad missed it. Claire had a panic attack over a B-. He said, "You understand, right?" She really needed me. I did understand. Or at least I told myself I did. In college, I worked 2 jobs to cover tuition. He sent Claire rent money and bought her a new laptop, because hers made her anxious. Mine was falling apart. He told me to check Craigslist. Even our mistakes weren't judged the same. Claire once backed his car into a neighbor's fence drunk. He called it a learning experience. I forgot to refill the tank before returning it once. He lectured me for an hour about responsibility. Claire drifted through majors, internships, apartments. Every failure was softened with hugs, pep talks, and checks. I stayed steady, paid bills, avoided trouble. And somehow that made me invisible. Competence wasn't celebrated. It was exploited. I was the one expected to cover utilities. After Claire racked up thousands in debt. The dependable daughter. The one who always said yes. And each time Dad repeated the same words. "You understand." But lying in that sterile room, my ribs bruised, stitches tight across my side, I finally understood something else. This wasn't love. It was neglect dressed as expectation. All those years I thought being strong would earn me care. Instead, it convinced him I didn't need any, even when I was the one bleeding. And if that night broke my body, it also cracked the story I'd been living in. The longer I stared at the ceiling that night, the clearer the pattern became. This wasn't a one-time betrayal. It was the final link in a chain I'd carried my whole life. I had been trained to endure, to swallow my pain, to wear strong like a badge while Claire's fragility was treated like royalty. I played my role so well that even bleeding in an ER I doubted myself. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe I could wait. But somewhere between the antiseptic sting, the hollow silence of that phone call, something cracked. I realized if I didn't change the script, no one ever would. When the nurse returned, adjusting my blanket, she asked softly, "Is anyone coming for you?" I wanted to say yes. Instead, I whispered, "No." And the honesty settled heavier than my broken ribs. I reached for my phone again. My hand shook, but not from pain. This time, I didn't scroll to Dad or Claire. I scrolled past them, to a name buried in my contacts, Eliza Grant. A lawyer I had worked with once, years ago. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was calm, steady. Everything mine wasn't. "Are you safe?" she asked first. "Yes," I breathed. "Physically, yes, but I need help. Legal help." I spilled it all. The accident, the call, the years of money funneled into Claire's chaos. The power of attorney I'd signed for Dad, just in case. The accounts they could still access. Her voice didn't waver. "Okay, what do you want to do?" The words surprised even me. "I want to cut them off, everything. Bank accounts, will, power of attorney. I don't want them to have anything." It came out like a confession. Raw, terrifying. But I also like releases. A lifetime of swallowed no's. Finally breaking into yes for myself. Eliza didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She simply said, "Do you have documentation?" And I did. Bank transfers, emails, texts. Proof I had been the family ATM for years. I didn't know why I kept them. Now I did. By the time I hung up, the machines still beeped. The bruises still ached. But I felt steadier than I had in years. For once, I wasn't begging for love. I was protecting myself from it. And that's when I realized. The crash hadn't broken me. It had armed me. Morning sunlight leaked through the blinds when Eliza arrived. Navy suit, hair pulled back, briefcase in hand. A quiet force of order in my chaos. She opened her laptop, and I handed her a flash drive. Months of quiet preparation spilled across her screen. Bank statements, screenshots, PayPal transfers, emails, texts. 300 here, $600 there. 1,000 labeled Claire's therapy, rent, groceries, bailouts. It wasn't generosity, it was expectation. A trail of nearly 6 figures erased to keep peace. Eliza looked at me, calm but sharp. This isn't kindness, this is financial dependence. Her words hit harder than my injuries, because they were true. Every dollar was a prayer, that Dad might notice me, Clare might thank me, but they never did. They only learned I never said no. I signed the papers she drafted, revoked Dad's power of attorney, removed them both from my will, updated every account. Each signature felt like stitching myself back together. By late afternoon, I was bracing. The hospital had notified Dad. He would come. Eliza stayed, steady as stone. They'll try to make this messy, she warned. At 4:47, the door opened. Dad entered first, tie loose, face set in concern. Clare followed, sunglasses like armor. But when they saw Eliza, their warmth vanished. "Who is this?" Dad barked. "Eliza Grant, Stella's attorney," she replied. Clare scoffed. "An attorney? Really?" Pain shot through my side as I sat up. "Sit if you want to talk, or walk out." Dad's jaw flexed. "Is this about earlier? You can't still be mad. You weren't dying." Clare was in a bad place. "A job interview," I said flatly. "You left me bleeding for a rejection email." Clare gasped. "I was having a panic attack." "You were disappointed," I snapped. "I was in surgery prep, alone." Dad raised his voice. "You're being dramatic again. You always turn everything into a crisis." That line hit like a slap. But I didn't crumble. "Eliza," I said, "play the message." She tapped her phone, and the room filled with his voice. "Why are you making such a fuss? You're not dying. Don't call in a panic. Clare needs support urgently now." Then Claire's, faint but cutting. "You're so self-centered, Stella. Can't you see I'm spiraling?" Silence followed. Damning, undeniable. Dad's face drained. Clare went pale. "Did you record us?" he snapped. "Yes, after you hung up." "I knew you'd try to rewrite it." His face flushed red. "You've lost your mind." "No," I said, voice steady. "I finally found it." And in that silence, they realized for the first time I wasn't their scapegoat anymore. The silence after that recording was heavier than the hospital walls around us. Dad's face flushed. Claire's lips trembled, searching for excuses. For the first time, they were exposed. Eliza stepped forward, papers in hand. "As of today, Stella has revoked all financial access. This includes power of attorney, shared accounts, and any future authorizations. You have no entitlement." Dad snatched the papers, scanning them with shaking hands. "You can't do this." His voice cracked with rage. "She can," Eliza said evenly, "and she has." Clare lunged closer, eyes wide. "But I need help. I'm looking for jobs. I can't go back to Mom's." Her words dripped with the same practiced desperation that had won her lifelines all her life. I shook my head. My voice was steel. "That's not my problem anymore. I was the one bleeding, and you still made it about you." Dad slammed the papers onto my bed. "After everything I did for you, your braces, summer camp, your childhood, and this is how you repay me?" I stared at him, my chest rising with calm fury. "You didn't raise me to be responsible. You raised me to fund your irresponsibility. That's not parenting. That's dependency." Claire's face crumpled. "You've always been jealous. You can't stand that Dad loves me more." Her voice cracked on the word love, as if even she knew it sounded hollow. I leaned forward, ignoring the ache in my ribs. If this is love, why did it abandon me? On a gurney while I waited for surgery? Neither of them answered. Eliza closed her folder with a sharp click. "This conversation is over. Stella has made her decision. You will respect her boundaries, or face legal action." They froze. The authority in her voice was something they couldn't bend with guilt or theatrics. For once, I wasn't the one cornered. Dad's shoulders sagged. Claire's eyes darted to the door. They looked smaller than I had ever seen them. Deflated, stripped of the power they once wielded. When Eliza opened the door, they walked out, anger and shame trailing behind them. No shouting, no bargaining. Just the quiet collapse of control they thought they owned forever. The door shut with a hollow thud, and in that sound, I felt something break free inside me. No more begging, no more explaining. Just the cold, clean line of a boundary drawn in steel. But even boundaries don't end the story. What came next proved who truly stood with me. That night, the texts began. Clare first. "You blindsided us. You've always been jealous. Now you're playing the victim for sympathy." Then Dad, "This is betrayal. After all I did for you. Your braces, your camp, your childhood. And this is how you repay me?" Each message chipped at the shell I was building. But I remembered Eliza's words. "Silence is power. Boundaries speak louder than replies." So I muted them. I let the phone buzz itself empty. 2 days later, I logged onto Facebook. Dad had posted a vague status. Sometimes the ones you love most hurt you deepest. Dozens of comments echoed pity. Loyalty is everything. Family first. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because in the silence, something else emerged. My cousin Jules messaged privately. I saw how they treated you. Clare was the storm. And you were forced to be the umbrella. That wasn't fair. I cried harder at that than in the ER. Because finally, someone saw me. Without me having to explain. Others showed up too. Emily from work. Dropped off groceries without asking. Nora texted, "You don't owe anyone your survival." Even my neighbor left flowers at my door. It was small, ordinary, but it was real. Months passed. My leg healed slowly. The cast gave way to a brace, then a cane. But what took longer was the quiet wound inside. A father's neglect. A sister's entitlement. A lifetime of being useful but never seen. And yet I healed. Not because they came back. They never apologized. They never owned their choice. But I stopped waiting. I stopped bleeding for approval. I filled the silence with people who showed up. And in that, I found a new truth. Family isn't just blood. Family is who stands when the lights go out. Who believes you without proof. Who never makes you apologize for needing them. So to anyone still waiting to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved without conditions, stop bleeding to earn what should be freely given. You are already enough. Have you ever had to walk away from family? To finally heal? Share your story below. I promise you're not alone.